First major hotel opened in Kiunga. Gulf still a strong prospect for gas pipeline. And Southern Highlands Province Governor announces new Acting Provincial Administrator.
This is the National EMTV News with Maribel Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for Wednesday's news. The 34.8 million kina Cassowary Hotel in Kiunga has been opened. The iconic landmark structure was opened by OTML Chairman Semoy Ave and Western Governor Taboy Awi Yoto. Stakeholders, including CMCA communities of the Octeri Development Foundation, witnessed the handing over of the biggest investment in recent years.
The Cassowary Hotel is now the biggest investment for CMCA communities of Octeri. Hundreds gathered yesterday to witness the ribbon cutting, plaque unveiling and its handover to Coral Sea Hotels to manage the property.
And going forward, as the building is handed over from Pacific Palms to Coral Seas, which is our hotels division, we will be operating and managing the hotel for you.
Special guests were given a traditional touch before opening the hotel and presentation of certificate rights to the government authorities. Chairman of OTML, Semoy Ave, says it's an investment for the people.
The Cassowary Hotel is one. They have their own ships, they own planes, they own the real estate in Kiunga. Plenty of opportunities. What I would like to see is the establishment of Kiunga Town Authority to protect this investment.
Dignitaries were given a tour of the hotel, which boasts standard facilities.
So, the opening of this hotel not only will benefit the CMC communities, it will also benefit other parts of Western Province through the tax that will be collected out of this hotel, which will support the budget of the province. It will also create jobs for Papua New Guineans and Western Province and people from Northland. It will also create an income and an opportunity for farmers who will be probably selling the produce to the hotel here. So it's a good opportunity for the people of Western Province.
The hotel is now the 8th and final major CMCA trust investment project delivered by the OTDF under current trust agreements.
The thing about our communities is they want to invest in the province because to them seeing is believing. They want to see that the investment is working for them. The investments are not overseas, in Australia or elsewhere in the world, where they only see reports, whereas here they can see actually working for them and returning the benefits for them. So that is one of the, I think, unique things that our communities have made a decision on.
Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
There are indications that the no pipeline out of Gulf Province stance for the Papua LNG project may change in the coming months. According to Gulf Governor Chris Haiveta, the no pipeline stance can only be supported if there are viable options provided to have an LNG terminal constructed in the Gulf Province. The Gulf Governor was speaking in response to questions on the no pipeline policy, a policy which had been the stance of the Gulf Provincial Government under former Governor Havila Kavo. According to Governor Haiveta, the no pipeline policy was one that was ill-conceived as no work had been done to provide viable options for an LNG terminal within Gulf Province. Haiveta has clarified that whilst the no pipeline policy stance had only related to the Elk Antelope gas fields, the province had other gas fields as well which needed to be considered. At present, around 12 gas fields are located within the Gulf Province, with reserve estimates at around 18 trillion cubic feet of gas.
So in about 8 to 9 to 10 of these fields, there's about 18 to 20 TCF of gas. So the no pipeline policy relates to only one project, and that's Elk Antelope. So let me make that very clear. One, in my government's review of that no pipeline policy, no alternatives were given to the national government, one, and two, no real work was done by the proponents of a policy in providing options, in providing alternatives and options of where to put it.
Whilst the previous provincial government had made their stance known through the no pipeline policy, no concrete alternatives had been put forward to offer proposed sites to host an LNG terminal within the province, something which Governor Haiveta says is disappointing.
You then develop your policy around that site. You develop a policy which means you do land investigation report. You make sure that that area is seismically sound. It has the water depths. It's got, if you have to move people, what are the socioeconomic implications of that move? None of this was carried out by the former government for the Elk Antelope project. No pipeline policy of the previous government on Elk Antelope is a fallacy. It's none of these things were done. No site was chosen in the province. So if a site was chosen, they should have gone and said, we are going to move you, and this is what we're going to do. This alternative site we are going to move you to.
Haiveta has reaffirmed the current provincial government's position to assess all available options before committing to a policy.
On a realistic basis, you must look at all these things before you make any suggestions. Let's not be emotional about this. So what are the alternatives? My government is looking at every alternative possible.
All in all, Governor Haiveta is adamant that any policy stance by the Gulf province must be in the best interests of the people of Gulf.
That no pipeline policy relates only to one project, Elk Antelope. I have all these resources and all these things, so I need to look at everything properly and come out with a policy that is in the best interest of the people of Gulf, not just one project-related area.
Southern Highlands Governor William Powie says Joseph Kajetan is the new Acting Provincial Administrator for the province. Governor Powie made the statement today following recent statements in the media. Powie says Public Service Minister Elias Kapavore has made it clear that Mr. Kajetan is duly appointed and his appointment must take effect.
Governor Powie has come out publicly to make his statement regarding the position of the Acting Provincial Administrator for Southern Highlands. Despite Elu's comments yesterday to remain in office, Governor Powie says Elu's term has expired and Mr. Joseph Kajetan is now the new Acting Provincial Administrator.
Mr. Elu's appointment and his achievement, he must understand that the appropriate appointing authority has decided after Mr. Elu's term expired, has decided with the appointment of Mr. Joseph Kajetan.
Elu was appointed following the election-related violence and continued when parts of the Highlands were struck by the massive 7.5 earthquake. Governor Powie is now calling for Elu to adhere to the decision made by the public service process.
From the appropriate authority, appointment authority, in this case the Minister for Public Service, the Department of Personnel Management, and of course the gazetted through normal government gazette. On behalf of the Southern Highlands Provincial Government, we welcome that and we look forward for stability.
Yesterday, the former police detective said he was appointed under special circumstances and defended his appointment.
I'm still the acting administrator appointed by the National Executive Council until a permanent appointment is made by the cabinet and not an acting appointment by some other bodies.
Governor Powie says Mr. Elu has done a lot in a space of 3 months. He says a formal handover ceremony must take place in Mendi.
Ask him to go and do the honors of doing a proper handover takeover and get stability and continuity in the Southern Highlands Provincial Administration, as opposed to creating confusion and creating unnecessary tension and anxiety in the minds of our people in the province and also the country.
The Southern Highlands Governor is urging all public servants in the province not to take sides as the province has gone through a lot in the past 6 months. Jack Lopava Jr., National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, the Southern Highlands Governor has urged Finance Secretary Dr. Ken Nangan and bank agents to allow Joseph Kajitan access to provincial funds as the mandated administrator. Governor Poe says the Public Service Minister has made a firm decision and said it should not be questioned. Mr. Poe says restoration and emergency work in the province is progressing and the tussle over the provincial administrator's post must not affect it.
I am also calling on the Secretary for Finance, Dr. Ken Nangan, to effect the necessary change in order for the new administrator to take financial control, as we are in the emergency and disaster area and we need orderly transition. I am also calling on the Secretary for Department of Personnel Management and the Secretary for Provincial Affairs to take note of the gazettal notice and the changes and the correspondence from the Department of Personnel Management, the Minister and the Secretary that has given effect.
You're with Wednesday's news. We go for a break. When we come back, more of the day's stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. 6 classrooms at the Huonville Primary School in Lae have been condemned by the PNG Fire Service, the Health Department and the Building Board for not being structurally safe. The closure of the school has forced more than 1,800 students out of class when Term 2 began on Monday. The school was established in the 1960s and has seen very little maintenance over the last 20 years.
6 buildings that accommodate 24 classes of grades 3 to 8 were suspended on Monday this week after an inspection by Building Board from Lae Aberdeen local level government, the Health Department and the PNG Fire Service. The inspection conducted 6 weeks ago shows that the buildings were not safe for the students to use. The school's head teacher, Willie Villakiva, is now asking for cash contributions per parent to build makeshift classrooms so that classes can resume.
And I hope that parents will come good with their 50 kina contribution so that we can get these makeshift classrooms up within this week or next week, the latest, and we get the classes started.
These buildings were constructed in the 1960s and have seen very little maintenance over the last 20 years. The chairman of the Parents and Citizens Group, Anton Warakai, said there is lack of support from the government.
This year it gave only 50,000, and that is for the teachers' curriculum support for teaching materials, not for the administration of the school. Only you look government reply. The government is lying to us. Where is the other 30%? It goes to Trade Pacific. Trade Pacific comes only in the beginning of the year. It doesn't, right now he hasn't come back again. So we don't know where Trade Pacific is. That's the reality of the TFF in Papua New Guinea now that we are seeing.
According to records, the government still owes the school almost 500,000 kina. The school's board chairman, Robin Kunai, said they sought clarifications from the district office regarding the 30% of the TFF infrastructure funds, but Lae District doesn't know where the money is.
The plan for Huonville redevelopment has gone through 3 vetting process. So if it is somewhere around Waigani in the National Planning Department, our situation is as such urgency, and if it can be given priority to be put in the next budgetary allocations so that this problem will be alleviated in the long run. We've talked about the short term, which the parents have taken on board. So now my appeal to National Planning, please, if that proposal, Huonville 5-year development plan, is sitting somewhere, National Planning, give it some urgency, because we totally need it right now.
Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Lae.
Companies who breach environmental laws will be penalized with a hefty fee. Environment and Conservation Minister John Pundari says the department will increase fees from 50,000 to $1 million kina. He says a review is underway to change current rates of environment breaches by international and national companies.
The minister responsible says the review will push for an increase in fees charged against companies causing environment damage. He says many players in different industries often breach environment laws and continue to pay. Minister Pundari says fees will see a big jump from 1,000 to $1 million kina.
For level 3 activities, a minimum of 10 million, and that could go to about 20 million or more. And for level 2 activities from 5 million, it could go to 20 million. And for individuals from 2 million, it could go to 20 million as well.
Logging has had significant environmental impacts, while the exploitation of mineral resources has led to pollution of rivers and threatening people's livelihoods. Many of these cases are challenged in court and are dismissed or watered down through other form of compensation. Minister Pundari says the review hopes to minimize bad practices in causing damages to the environment.
Corporations and institutions that are permitted by my organization, that they operate responsibly.
The review is in progress and into its final stages. Minister Pundari says the new categories of fees will be harsh.
I believe are not encouraging or are not deterrent enough to make them more responsible in their operations. And therefore I've decided that we should immediately increase some of these punitive measures that are in kina terms.
The review is hoped to be presented in Parliament in its May session. Jack Lepavit Jr., National EMTV News.
Finance Corporation Limited presented a check of 40,000 kina today to help with relief efforts for Quake victims. The check was presented to the Uniting Church of PNG through FinCorp's church partnership. Following a comprehensive needs assessment, it was decided that the United Church will be using this money to procure and distribute starter kits.
FinCorp presented a check of 40,000 kina to the United Church of PNG this morning. Through a church partnership, it was decided that UCPNG will use the money to purchase and distribute starter kits.
With such a disaster like this, it's important that relief gets to the ground as quickly as we can. FinCorp doesn't have the ability to do it ourselves, so we looked at vehicles to get it there, and we believe the United Church of PNG is probably one of the best vehicles to get the aid to the people that need it most.
The idea is to help families who have lost their homes. The starter kits are to help them start thinking about rebuilding their lives.
It's tough out there at the moment, and we realise that, and we are very much appreciative of people like the Uniting Church and other church groups that get in there with the people and provide their needs immediately now and into the future.
The United Church has been assisting with the relief work in the Highlands.
In Southern Highlands and Hela, and they put together what the needs look like. And so we put in an appeal, and so this was one of the bigger responses. And so I cannot tell you the details of what the response will be like, but it's basically what I'm hearing is that it's going to be towards helping people to restart their lives.
FinCorp acknowledged the great work done by many organizations in the hard-hit areas, and also the role that churches played in the restructure of those communities.
It's every business community to be involved in it. Anything that can assist with the people getting their lives back together, I think is really important. It's great to see that the government is also mobilising their forces, and I'd like to see more of the business community get involved with natural disasters.
Lilian Sopera-Kinea, National EMTV News.
The Papua New Guinea snakebite partnership has made significant progress in the management of snake bites with the successful completion of the Papuan type and anti-venom clinical trials. Going forward, the partnership is running a 3-year project to manage the anti-venom supply and health worker training on snake bite management, combined with a donation of 600 vials of the anti-venom annually.
The donation of 600 vials of snake and marine creatures anti-venom is a huge leap from the usual supply. It is part and parcel of a 3-year project that the PNG Snakebite Partnership is running, including training, supply and distribution, and is supported by funding from the Australian government to Securus, an Australian-based biopharmaceutical company. Both parties are members of the partnership. At a press conference that launched the project, Health and HIV Minister Sir Puka Temu welcomed the donation of the anti-venom vials. He said the donation meant a massive slash in expenses and triple the supply of anti-venoms for the nation. Australian High Commissioner Bruce Davis commended the partnership, specifically the Charles Campbell Toxinology Centre, a University of Papua New Guinea collaboration with the University of Melbourne, whose efforts set the foundation for this project. He said it represented a critical relationship between the countries in the institutionalization of collaborative research. Their joint efforts made the first clinical trials of the newly developed Papuan type in anti-venom in the Australasian region a success. Dr. David William, head of the Australian Venom Research Institute in the University of Melbourne, developed the venom after a tragic encounter with a snakebite patient here in PNG and has led the trials from the get-go. For the next 3 years, the centre will be handling anti-venoms and training health workers on snakebite management. It has offered to sponsor 2 postgraduate Masters of Medical Science students as part of a comprehensive monitoring evaluation service, a move the Minister Sir Puka Temu sees as vital for improving the ongoing management of snakebites. Melissa Gaviro, National EMTV News.
The 2018 PNG Fashion Week organisers have given 10% of the event's proceeds to Telecom Foundation Incorporated. Today, Telecom PNG, as the bronze sponsor for the 2018 PNG Fashion Week, also officially presented a cheque of 30,000 kina to the event to demonstrate the exchange. Organizer and National Director of World Supermodel PNG, Phil McKelligai, said the donation was their way of giving back to the community. Yolanda Bafmatuk, co-coordinator of the Telecom Foundation, said the funding would go a long way to help the cause of the organization, giving underprivileged school students the chance to access information via the internet.
And developing Papua New Guineans, so it makes perfect sense. Part of the proceeds from PNG Fashion Week will go back to the Telecom Foundation in order to carry out their work. It's very important.
Where Telecom PNG access is, and we try to go to schools that are in those areas to provide them internet access. So this in itself is a gain for Papua New Guineans, especially for the children, mothers.
The government of New Zealand has reaffirmed its support towards the referendum process in the autonomous region of Bougainville through funding of $1 million. This will be channeled through UNDP's Bougainville Referendum Support Project, the BRSP. More specifically, this funding will support the Bougainville Referendum Commission through technical expertise, the procurement of operational items, and outreach conduct training of media and other key partners on their respective roles in the referendum process. Sue Mackwell, the New Zealand High Commissioner to PNG, hopes that the funding will encourage other international partners to also support the project. She says the peace process in Bougainville continues to break new ground, and New Zealand hopes that other donors will join the government of PNG and the autonomous government of Bougainville in being part of this important process. Both the United Nations and New Zealand have played important roles in the peace process in Bougainville, dating back to the earliest days in the late 1990s. The India Association of PNG generously assisted 4 charitable organizations with 2 tons of scale rice today. PNG Childcare, Sisters of Charity, PNG Children Foundation, and Cheshire Disability Services PNG were the recipients. IAPNG President Om Prakash Sheshadri said as part of the PNG community, they wanted to ensure that their donations go to the best possible charitable organizations. He also mentioned that scale rice was chosen because of its rich vitamins and high quality. All 4 organizations were present to receive these donations today.
The objective of the India Association was to foster friendship with Papua New Guineans, and Indian Association as an association we have been contributing back to the community for the past 38 years, and we have done several donations year on year, and we had several presidents every year, and this year I got the honor to be the president, and this year we donated around 100,000 kina worth of different donations to various charitable organizations, and today marks the day of donating 2 tons of rice, and of course in conjunction with Goodman Fielders.
Here with Wednesday's news, we look at stories making headlines overseas when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, more than a month after former Russian spy Sergei Skripal was poisoned, authorities have found that the toxic nerve agent used does not evaporate or disappear over time. 9 sites must be decontaminated, and the cleanup can take many months and cost millions of dollars.
Weeks may have passed, seasons have changed, but the science suggests that these sites in Salisbury are as dangerous today as they were when the chemical weapon attack took place. Despite theories that it may have washed away, we're now told the nerve agent does not disappear. And, say officials, it was in a liquid form. Their research has also concluded that only direct contact with the Novichok nerve agent could lead to poisoning. So despite officers standing within inches of a highly contaminated door in the days immediately following the attack, they were actually safe. Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia would not necessarily have known they'd been contaminated. But along with Detective Sergeant Nick Bailey, once in contact, they all unwittingly helped spread it around Salisbury, hence the need to clean up multiple sites.
It's not one treatment fits every site. Each site is an individual plan and will be worked through, but no site will come back into use until it is.
A woman has died after being partially sucked out of a broken plane window mid-flight. It happened when an engine exploded on the Southwest Airlines Boeing 737 in the U.S. It's the first passenger fatality in the U.S. airline industry since 2009.
20 minutes into the flight, 30,000 feet high. Passengers grab for their oxygen masks as the plane rapidly descends. 10 rows back from the engine, shrapnel sent flying into the side of the plane. A woman sucked through the window. The Southwest Airlines plane was en route from New York to Dallas. 11:08 a.m, the pilot declares an emergency.
Yeah, we have a part of the aircraft missing, so we're going to need to slow down a bit.
Landing in Philadelphia, passengers and crew were praised for trying to help the woman, Jennifer Reardon, a mother of 2.
Injured passengers, okay, and is your airplane physically on fire?
No, it's not on fire, but part of it's missing.
Flight crew did an incredible job getting this aircraft here on the ground.
It's the first onboard fatality in Southwest's 51-year history.
This is a very sad day. And on behalf of the entire Southwest family, I want to extend my deepest sympathies for the family and the loved ones of the deceased customer.
The question tonight, what caused this catastrophic engine failure? The plane had been inspected just 2 days ago, but no engine problems were reported, leaving it up to investigators to now determine what caused this deadly mid-air disaster.
Former U.S. First Lady Barbara Bush has died at the age of 92. The Bush family matriarch will be remembered for her down-to-earth nature and passion for causes, including children's literacy, as well as being the wife of one president and the mother of another.
She was the matriarch of an American political dynasty. Barbara Pierce Bush was the wife of the 41st president and the mother of the 43rd. Another son served as governor of Florida and made a run for the White House. Her quick wit and no-nonsense demeanour made Bush a popular First Lady.
At last I get a chance to prove I'm more than just a pretty face.
She was a force for a number of causes, including literacy, AIDS and children's issues.
Did you like that story?
Driven in part by the loss of a daughter to leukemia. With her husband, Bush raised more than $1 billion for charity after leaving the White House.
My wife, Barbara, the Silver Fox.
Former President George H.W. Bush publicly referred to his wife, Bar, as the reason for his success. She was fiercely protective of and loyal to her family.
At the end of your life, you will never regret not having passed one more test, winning one more verdict, or not closing one more deal. You will regret time not spent with a husband, a child, a friend, or a parent.
She often joked she had been lucky to marry well, while friends and fans say it's the United States that was lucky to have such a gracious and caring woman as a First Lady in her later years, affectionately known as America's grandmother.
New body cameras will capture the moments Australian police make arrests in a bid to improve accountability and community safety. Officers are expected to turn on the cameras when they respond to incidents, but don't have to tell anyone that they're being recorded.
A new era in the level of scrutiny on frontline policing is underway here in Epping. Victoria Police has decided to roll out the first batch of the body-worn cameras here. Police will be expected to activate the cameras under certain circumstances. That could include when they use force, they make an arrest, they collect evidence, or in road policing situations. Now, to activate the cameras, police will need to switch them from standby mode. That will record vision and audio from 30 seconds prior to them being activated. There'll be no requirement on police to let people know that they are being recorded.
That's a significant change in the manner in which Victoria Police work, and our members are ready and keen and enthusiastic. So this is the first time we'll capture footage, video and audio footage in our interactions with the public.
The rollout of the cameras follows recent community outrage over the use of force by police captured by CCTV. It's believed that the body-worn cameras could boost public confidence in the conduct of police. Now, the cameras will be in use in Ballarat next week, and if all goes to plan, they'll be rolled out statewide by the end of next year.
You're with National EMTV News. Trukai Sports is up next. We will take a look at the Hunters, netball, cricket, swimming and the Commonwealth Games ranking of PNG athletes. We'll be back after these messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with Rugby League, and the SPPNG Hunters will be taking on the South's Logan Magpies this weekend at the National Football Stadium. Coach Michael Marum has named his starting team for the must-win match.
Coach Michael Marum has named Charlie Simon to start at hooker in place of the injured Wartovo Puara. Puara has been sidelined after sustaining a shoulder injury in last weekend's clash. Moses Meninga and John Andy have also been ruled out after Meninga copped a knee injury while Andy suffers from an ankle injury. Enoch Maki starts at prop and will see Willie Minoga return from injury. Minoga will take his place at second row. Mackenzie Ye, Adam Korave, Ila Alu, Dilbert Isaac and Brendan Kotuno have been named on the extended bench. Coach Michael Marum will finalize his 17-man team prior to the captain's run at the NFS on Saturday. The game kicks off at the Oil Search National Football Stadium on Sunday at 3 p.m. Two Intercity Cup matches will be played before and after the Hunters and Magpies match. The NCD Vipers take on Lace Necks Tigers at 12:30 p.m, while Croton Hella Wigmen and Simba Warriors will kick off their match at 5 p.m. Large Levet National EMTV Sports.
To netball, and the PNG Peppers lost 51-54 in the first World Cup qualifying match to the Cook Islands. The Peppers put up a good fight against the Cook Islanders. However, they trailed by a few points throughout the four quarters. The first quarter ended with the Cook Islands in the lead, 15-13. In the second, they still had the upper hand, 28-26. By the end of the third quarter, the Cook Islanders pounced onto a 5-point lead, leveling this with the scores at 43-37. The Cooks managed to hold on to the lead through to the final whistle, beating PNG 54-51. The Pepes next play Samoa. That match is this evening. Shift mission to the 2018 Gold Coast Commonwealth Games, Tamsin Woodley was proud to announce the names of the athletes ranked from 8th to 1st in the Commonwealth. The top 8 rankings include the athletes in the sport of boxing, athletics, representing para sports, and weightlifting. These athletes were recognized by the Commonwealth Games Federation.
Athletes that place in 8th place and above. So that's 8th place or quarterfinals and above. And I have their certificates here tonight, and I asked John to hand them out. So the first one was Samuel Nelson in the para 100 metres. I think he's actually already received his certificate in a sneaky attempt at our office to get them out early. But if you could come back on stage. And we also have our 2 boxers that were in the quarterfinals. We have Charles Kima and Thaddeus Katua. And then I'm exceedingly happy to announce that the entire weightlifting team achieved this honour. So I would ask them to all come forward to receive their certificates of merit from the Commonwealth Games Federation.
Papua New Guinea's premier vehicle outlet for new and used vehicles, Borco Motors, provided a ute to cricket PNG national team coach Joe Dawes, an avid roadie himself. Dawes, who loves to explore the areas around Port Moresby, will give him the opportunity to survive the traffic and enjoy a comfortable ride off-road. The new ute is perfect to carry all his cricket gear needed to train the Hebo PNG Barramundis, the City Pharmacy PNG Lewers, and the Hebo PNG Under-19 Garamots. Cricket PNG CEO Greg Campbell thanked Borco Motors for the partnership and the speed in which the ute was made available to Mr. Dawes. He said the ute will assist Joe in delivering much-needed high-performance programs right here during his stint with Cricket PNG. To swimming, and as PNG Swimming prepares to host the 12th Oceania Swimming Championships in Port Moresby in June, it is also working in cooperation with FINA through its development and education programs to conduct an open water swimming clinic for officials. This is to be held over 3 days from the 27th to the 29th of this month. FINA Technical Open Water Swimming Committee and Open Water Technical Director for the championships, William Ford, has accepted the invitation to conduct the clinic in Port Moresby. The clinic is designed to educate and train technical officials, ensuring that they are given the opportunity to further develop their skills and develop aquatic sport in PNG. Here with Trukai Sports, we'll have more for you after these messages. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To boxing now. The professional boxing gym is preparing to host its 4th tournament this year after successfully staging 3 events last year. The event will showcase 8 fighters, 4 professionals and 2 semi-professional boxers. The tournament is a lead-up to the international fight against Indonesia in June later this year.
This year's professional boxing tournament will see 8 boxers take centre stage on the 29th of April, all representing their club. Today all the fighters held a debrief session at the Sports Scene Club where they were interviewed by media.
This weekend fight I have 8 fighters and 4 bouts. All these bouts from last year's, and this year's we make a pre-selection and we pick them up to put them again, and we can run them off for the preparation for the international event.
Douglas Wallow from Ley is no stranger to professional boxing and says he is looking forward to putting on a show for the spectators next weekend.
Thank you, PNG boxing gym promoter when me games la event that me blow some boxer when me left out some around 4 years ago. Now me come again after some years when me been miss out. So me come again on next week Sunday, but me flying from Morobe representing Morobe province.
All fighters say preparations to the event have been going well and they have all been training in their various clubs.
I'm happy and I'm proud to be taking part. This is my first pro fight and I'm looking forward to it. It gives me physical strength and it maintains my life.
Be ready to fight with the professional fight come up with the next weekend. Me and the players the game na be be ready to fight.
For main fight for this event next weekend, we should have Junior Raka Kakwa is a current Papua New Guinea champion. His opponent will be Johnson Kapus. So all these fighters are now here. They will be fighting for the co-events.
The sole purpose of hosting such an event is to promote and lift the profile of professional boxing in PNG. The event will take place next Sunday, 29th of April. Tickets are pre-sold at Trophy House or 20 kina at the gate and tables for 500 kina. Godwin Eki, National, MTV Sports.
While the younger generation of hockey players have just finished up at the Commonwealth Games, some much older teams have been playing off against each other as part of the Golden Oldies tournament in Christchurch, New Zealand. It seems age is no barrier for 83-year-old Colin Birtles from Ireland.
Not even age, it seems, can take away the competitive nature out of an old-time hockey player.
I feel okay, so all in all, it's a good day.
After making the 18,000-kilometre trek from Ireland, he's the oldest player at the Golden Oldies hockey tournament, a sport which he's now been playing for more than 60 years.
I do enjoy it, but as I say, I do feel a bit embarrassed about the fact that I can't do what I used to be able to do.
And while players must be over 35 to compete, upwards of that it seems there's no limit.
I'm over 70, but I'm not over 80. I'm a mere 70-year-old, so I'm on the youngsters.
The enthusiasm of the athletes on the pitch is clearly more important than agility. And even though Colin may be a little slow, it's not that he's running on tired legs.
But I've got 2 titanium knees and running is difficult. And if you can't run at hockey, you're struggling a bit.
I'm his minder. That's the only trouble. You need a 70-year-old to be an actor's minder for the 80-year-olds. I had to remind him to take his watch off when he went on the pitch.
Subbing off for the fresh legs of his teammate Bill, who isn't actually that much younger, aged 80, Colin's well-earned rest means he'll hopefully get through the rest of the week's games.
We're lacking a bit of pace, so we brought Bill on, yeah. I'll get through this one okay. I'm just aiming for Vancouver, if I can, in 2019, yeah.
A 4-2 loss for Colin's side, not really bothering anyone, and he was even proving popular with the opposition. And if his titanium knees hold up, then there's no doubt he'll be packing his bags for next year's Golden Oldies in Canada.
The rugby union now in Israel Folau is used to making headlines on the rugby field, but he is probably getting used to making them off it as well. For the most part, Folau's comments that gay people will go to hell has been an issue between Folau, his club, the Waratahs and Rugby Australia. But now, Kiwi Super Rugby players have found their voice and they're adding it to the mix.
For Chiefs and All Blacks halfback Brad Webber, Israel Folau's comment struck a particularly personal nerve. On Twitter, Webber, who has gay family members, said he was sick of us players staying quiet on the issue and that he couldn't stand playing the game he loves with people like Folau. He went on to say his cousin and auntie and both their partners were some of the most kind, caring and loving people he knew, and that Folau's suggestion that they'll go to hell disgusted him. Webber is the first Super Rugby player to publicly speak out on the issue and has been given the full support of his Players Association.
People who engage with rugby in whatever manner deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, and I think what you've seen in Brad is he wants to make that clear that that's how he feels. And indeed from a player association and player base, that's how we all feel.
Labour MP and former Black Fern Louisa Wall is another Kiwi who's speaking out.
We need people like Brad Webber. I suppose I'm in that same category. I can't be silent. And I'm doing it because I know that comments like this damage and do hurt and do have the potential, I believe, to assist suicide.
While New Zealand Rugby haven't commented specifically on this case, they released a statement saying they're committed to diversity and inclusion. And while they respect people will have varying views and beliefs, they expect them to be expressed in a respectful way. Rugby Australia have since accepted Folau's position after the rugby star defended his beliefs in Australian sports magazine People's Voice. Major sponsors Qantas have also confirmed that no changes will be made to their agreement with Rugby Australia, which runs through until 2020. But with the issue seemingly far from blowing over, the rugby world is holding its breath to see what happens next.
And that story wraps up Trukai Sports for this evening. Up next, the weather details for tonight and tomorrow. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In the southern region, Port Moresby, there are expected thunderstorms tonight, which will drag on to tomorrow. A high of 33. Daru, cloudy with a chance of thunderstorms. Kerma, afternoon showers. It'll be a warm night tonight with some afternoon showers expected tomorrow. And Alotau, passing morning shower tomorrow. Poponita can expect late thunderstorms this evening. To the Momase region, cloudy with some thunderstorms expected in Lae and Madang, as well as in Vanimo. Thunderstorms as well expected for Wau and Wewak. To the New Guinea Islands region, fine, although some showers later on for Kokopo, Rabaul and Buka. Cloudy with a chance of showers for Lorengau. Some thunderstorms expected in Kimbe, and showers and thunderstorms for Kavieng. And in the Highlands region, some rain and thunderstorms expected in Mount Hagen and Kundiawa. Cloudy with some thunderstorms expected for Goroka. Some thunderstorms expected in Mendi and Wabeg as well.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And to end the news, a recap of our top stories this evening. Kiunga's first real hotel establishment opened. Southern Highlands Province Governor announces replacement for Thomas Elu as Provincial Administrator, and higher fines for environmental breaches. And that's the news, sport and weather for today, Wednesday, the 18th of April 2018. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.